Hello, Rob here from the Flanagan Homestead. Today we're going to give a little bit of advice on how to drive in the snow. Nothing super in-depth, but a lot of different quick tip ideas that if you're learning to drive in the snow, you may want to understand. There are a few things that we'll cover that might be a little bit different driving in the city, or if you're out here playing in the mountains, on the logging roads. Also, what type of different types of vehicles may react differently, and tires. So here goes our quick rundown on how to drive in the snow. Number one, in my opinion, the most important thing I can say is drive smoothly and cautiously. Pretend that you just put a huge pot of chili in the passenger seat and it's not secured there, and you're driving to the church potluck and you want to get it there. If you were to stop quickly, it would spill out. If you were to turn really sharp and fast, it would spill out. Yeah, and so when you're in the snow, you just need to know it's going to take you more time to do things and have control. So if you're coming up to a stop sign or whatever, slow down further out and start slowing down in a gentle fashion. Don't expect to be able to brake quickly. Same thing with accelerating. Also, when you're turning corners, if you're going too fast, the wheels may tend to slide out to the side. So all these things, stop, start, turning, do it very calm and gentle. Number two, look far ahead and see what's ahead of you. Be anticipating things and preparing for it. Also, give yourself a lot of room. Some people tend to tailgate people and be really close. You don't know if they're going to stop, start, or spin out. You don't know the conditions of their tires or their vehicle in the snow. Give yourself a little bit of room. Don't be uptight to people so you can react if something else happens to them. Number three, you need to be bold as a lion going up hills and cautious as a lamb. And what I mean by that is, if you're trying to pull yourself uphill and there's snow and ice and you start to slip and you get scared and you pull off the accelerator, you're probably stuck. You're not going anywhere. So even on the way up here to record this video, I have a driveway that has a corner and a 16% grade. So I have a four-wheel drive with snow tires on it, but they're sliding out. And the natural reaction is to pull off and not go, but especially if you have front-wheel drive with tires with good traction, keep the accelerator on, keep the wheels spinning, and they'll pull you into line. So get going, get after it, get uphill and be aggressive uphill. And if you spin out and you can't go anymore, at least you'll just stop and be safe. On the other hand, when you're going downhill, you need to be cautious as a lamb. If you start going downhill and you get more and more speed going, and then you get nervous or you start to lose control, the tendency is want to hit the brakes. And if you're on a downhill with snow and ice, you're going to keep going. It's not like going uphill where gravity is going to stop you if you lose traction. You're going to keep going for a while. So when we're going down a steep hill when there's ice, we really slow down before we get on the downgrade, and then keep a nice slow pattern going, and then once we get to the bottom we can accelerate more. Number four, if you do start to get into a slight skid, don't panic and slam on the brakes. If you're sliding out this way and you need to go to the right, let off the accelerator, turn your wheels the direction you need to go, and just let it kind of coast and let the front wheels get traction and start pulling you out of it. If you get into a skid that you can't control, at that point in time, you will just slam on the brakes, but all new vehicles have anti-lock systems and stability control, and so they will not just completely lock up. So even if you do get to the point that you feel like you have to pound on the brake, keep steering so that when the car is reacting and letting the wheels turn a little bit, it's going to help steer it in. So whether braking or not, always keep the wheel turning the direction you want to go. Pay attention to the lights on your dashboard. If you see flashing lights, there's a stability control light there. And if you're driving down the road and you don't necessarily feel anything odd going on, but that light starts flashing, it's letting you know that the wheels are not spinning consistently, or there's a traction issue. So at that point in time, if you're driving safely down the road, you can keep driving, but just be aware that traction is an issue, and you might want to slow down even more coming into your stops and your corners. All right, now let's talk about vehicles and tires. And this is my personal rankings on how well they can handle the snow or not. It's not specific models, but types of vehicles. This is not official Car and Driver, but this is just my experience. Number one, the worst vehicle you could possibly have is a rear-wheel drive and not front-wheel drive. There's nothing pulling in front and pulling you straight and giving you good traction. So two-wheel drive, rear-wheel drive is the worst. Front wheel drive, but only two wheel, is the next lowest you'd want to have. And then it is significantly better though than rear wheel drive. Front wheel drive, when you're in snow and ice, the front wheels are turning, and you can turn the steering wheel and it'll pull you the direction you want to go instead of trying to push you and it's just skidding all over the place. I would say that a front wheel drive with snow tires is better than a four-wheel drive without snow tires. And so obviously four-wheel drive would be higher than both rear wheel and front wheel drive that are only two-wheel. Four-wheel drive is better, but I will tell you, a lot of people get suckered into the belief that I got a four-wheel drive, I'm going to be fine. And that is not often the case. There's a fun story. My boys had snow passes and they're snowboarding at Timberline every weekend for quite a while last year, and they would drive our minivan to take all their friends up there, which is obviously only a two-wheel drive, but it's front-wheel drive. But because we live in snow country, we have studded snow tires on it, and the snow tires on there make a significant difference. And the number of times that they're going up the mountain, there's ice and snow, and there's four-wheel drive pickups and Jeeps that have slid off to the side of the road, and they're trying to keep going, and they can't keep going. And the number of times that my boys go flying past that, not flying past it because they're driving cautiously, but they go past them in our two-wheel drive minivan, but we have snow tires, they do much better. So don't be fooled to thinking that four-wheel drive you're just safe in the snow. The four-wheel drive does not help you at all in turning, and it does not help you at all in braking. Okay, but snow tires do help you a ton. So I believe a front-wheel drive with snow tires on it, unless you're up in deep snow or you have to climb hills, is going to do much better than a four-wheel drive. Obviously, then, if you have four-wheel drive and snow tires, then you're going to do much better. My wife has a Subaru now, and she has studless snow tires. When we first started buying studless snow tires, we thought, can these really work that well? But they really grip the snow and ice really well. And actually on ice, we're amazed at how well they do. Now, everything is going to slide some if it's super slick conditions, but the four-wheel drive with snow tires, I have studded tires on my pickup. My wife has studless. They both help immensely. Okay, and speaking of tires, obviously chains make a difference. Chains are a game changer. Snow tires are good, but if you put chains on, and I have chains sitting here, I don't have them on right now, but when it gets really bad, if I put the chains on, that will get me through icy spots much better. It'll get me through that packed snow and ice, and then around here it's starting to melt and it's a little bit slushy, but it'll dig through that and get to a firmer spot and keep me going. So obviously having snow chains is a huge help. I personally have the Les Schwab Quick Connect ones. I love them. I can get those on and off really quick. So right now I'm standing on the logging roads that head up to Davis Peak, and there's a lot more snow up at the top there than there is here. My personal property is the last piece of property before we get into the forest land and we get into the public logging roads. But it's quite often that you see people right at the takeoff at my place where people are airing down their tires and airing up. Now there's some debate if you talk to the people that study this on whether this is helpful or not, but I will tell you that I've found that if you air down the tires just a little bit in the snow, that you get better traction. Now you don't want to be doing these on city streets and pavement, but I think when you get out here and you're breaking fresh trail, that sometimes airing down the tires is a good deal. As mentioned earlier, most new vehicles have traction control, and that's where a computer is adjusting your ability to brake in different tires and the traction or the drive on different tires. And it is a wonderful thing for driving in the snow and ice, and you should almost always leave that on. But there is an instance, for instance, when you're out here and you're braking new trail up in the mountains and whatnot, and you know right now I want all four wheels on my four-wheel drive to be turning and pulling and driving, and I don't want a computer shifting power and weight and turning it off. So that's the one time that I will turn off the traction control on my vehicle, and usually I got a pile of fresh snow and I'm trying to get uphill, I'll turn it off and just power through it. What should you have with you when you're driving in winter conditions? obviously it's different in different scenarios, but if you're driving a long distance in the snow and you got to get somewhere, even if it's not a long distance, and the conditions are hazardous, there's a couple things that you should have. Even in a smaller car, if you could have a shovel in the car, just put it in there, and then if you get stuck, you can move. You could, if it's not a real serious issue, you could move some snow, get it out, and get some traction, and get going. The other thing, just personally, I think you should always have a warm jacket in your car in the winter. So if you get stuck and you have to get out and move around, you have a way of keeping warm, and you have some shoes that you can or boots that you can move around in and walk in the snow. Quite often, before we could afford better tires, we'd have to walk part of the way home because of the steep hill getting to our house. This, again, was before we could afford nicer vehicles, but I always had shoes and warm clothes, and I enjoy a hike in the snow. And so we'd stop at the bottom of the hill, and we'd have to hike a mile up the hill some days, or usually a little bit less than that. But be ready to stay warm outside even though you're in the vehicle. Now also, I've already mentioned you need to have a shovel with you. I prefer a flat shovel because that usually is going to scrape across the bottom of the road really well, and a metal blade one. A lot of times if I'm up here in loose snow, I'll take a regular snow shovel because it's easier to move more snow that way. Also, a lot, if you have a tow cable, just in case you get stuck, that's nice. One of the big debates out there is sandbags in the back of your pickup or in your vehicle. I know a lot of people have recommended having sandbags. Now, this is a pretty light one, but if I wanted to make a difference, I'd probably have a couple of these. And usually you place them over the wheel wells on the rear wheel. The back end is so light it tends to want to slide, and a lot of people believe the weight pushes the tires down in the snow and gets better traction. There's other people that will tell you that if you have that extra weight and you're turning corners, it'll want to slide. I personally believe it gives you a little bit better traction. Even if you don't want a lot of weight, I think it doesn't hurt to have a little bit of sand in the back of your pickup, because I have had an instance where we were, once for myself and once for someone else, we were just parked on some ice and needed to take off uphill, and getting started was difficult, and I just opened up the sandbag, threw a handful of sand right underneath each tire and in front of the tire, and we were able to start rolling away. I was able to do that when someone else was stranded. We were trying to push it, whatnot, couldn't do it. Threw some sand and a little bit of track in front of their tires. They got started, and once they got momentum going, they were able to keep going. So there you have it, folks. A few quick tips on how to drive in the snow and staying safe. And if the road conditions are really bad and you don't have to go anywhere, just stay home. Stay safe. And if you are out on the roads, slow down and give people space. Thanks for joining me on the Flanagan Homestead, where Christmas trees are my business, teaching and cleaning horticulture is my job, and outdoor projects are my passion. Hope to see you again soon. Be blessed, everyone.